Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the camera store, and today we're going to give you our first look of the Canon EOS R7
and the R10.
By the way, if you guys are new to the channel, we're Dave and Evelyn from the camera store. Not only do we review cameras and all kinds of gear, but we also sell it at thecamerastore.com. So if you want to support local, be sure to check out our store. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see more of our reviews later on.
We were fortunate enough to get our hands on these two early pre-production units. Now they're very interesting because they are the first two crop sensor cameras in the EOS R lineup.
Yeah, and they're packed with a ton of features, including a lot of advanced stuff that we were surprised to see. So we're gonna give you our first impressions of these new APS-C EOS R cameras. And we didn't do it alone because we also collaborated with a couple of friends, including Chris Niccolls from DPReview TV, as well as Dan and Sally Watson. So we'll be chatting with them a little bit later.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
The Canon EOS R7 is the more advanced of the pair that we're talking about today. And this has a lot of great features that I think enthusiasts, wildlife, sports photographers, photojournalists, and even some professionals would enjoy as maybe a second body. It's very reminiscent of the Canon EOS 7D Mark II, some features that we'd even seen in like the 90D, but this is a great camera. It has a crop sensor that's capable of fast shooting at 32.5 megapixels, and we also have up to 7 stops of image stabilization. It has dual card slots and it can record in 4K 60. So we'll get into a lot of those features later on, but first of all, I want to talk a little bit about the build quality and the ergonomics. In the hand, this camera is a lot smaller and lighter than the DSLRs before it. It's kind of more like a Canon EOS R6. You have this familiar, deep, large grip, but the body itself is quite a bit smaller. In fact, the 7D Mark II is about 50% heavier than this camera, and this one comes in at just about 610 grams. I really like how everything feels in my hand. It's a magnesium alloy construction and it is weather sealed, and I feel like it is fairly rugged. However, there's some areas here that don't make it feel as high-end as I would have liked. One of the things is the buttons and the feel of everything on the back panel. They're just not what I would expect, and they've made some different changes, and one of them is with the joystick, they have a control wheel around it. Now, at first I thought that looked really odd, and I was very concerned about accidentally adjusting my exposure because it's programmed to be the exposure compensation dial. But as I'm using it more and more, it's feeling more comfortable, and I think Canon's done a good job with the tension and the feel of those controls, and so I'm not finding myself making those kinds of mistakes. I also think that with this camera, they've really positioned it to be a great sports action wildlife camera and made it sort of that professional level with the dual card slots and some of the other functionality. One area where we're not seeing maybe as top end as we'd like to see is with the EVF. It's a good looking EVF, it has good magnification. However, the resolution of it is only 2.36 million dots. And that seems okay for now, but it would be nice if they went a little bit higher end, maybe charged a bit more for this camera, to be able to get that higher end panel. Another thing that we quite like is of course the fully articulating screen. And this makes it more of a content creation tool because you have that video functionality, you can use it for vlogging, and we just like having that option for a camera at this level. Another thing that we're quite happy to see is we have a nice juicy battery. They didn't skimp out there. So we have the big battery that we see, the LPE6NH battery, same one that's in the R5 and the R6. And we love that it has USB-C charging using a power delivery system. And of course, so many things are charged with USB-C these days. So it's easy usually to find a charger, be able to charge it on the go. I like what Canon has done with the design of this camera. Of course, you don't have things like a top LCD panel, you know, the control dial's in a different place, but I think that a lot of people that are moving into the system are going to appreciate a lot of the choices that they made with the style and design.
This is the Canon EOS R10, and what I like about it right off the bat is how lightweight it is. It's 426 grams, it's just shy of a pound, so it doesn't really feel heavy at all, but the grip is fantastic on this camera. And I like the fact that we have two control dials here. We have one on the above the finger, one on the back here for making some adjustments. And it does inherit the same manual focus autofocus switch in the front of the camera like the R7 does, but it doesn't have the full control dial. It simply has the tried and true sort of 8-way controller joystick here, which works just fine on a camera like this. Now we do have a 3-inch articulating screen, the same viewfinder, 2.36 million dots of resolution for this viewfinder. We do give up a few things compared to the R7. We have a single card slot, which is just fine for a camera of this nature. But we also give up a headphone jack, which I think is a bit of an oversight on this camera. We have a place to plug in a microphone, but I would like to see a headphone jack as well, since this really lends itself to content creation. Although we do give up a few things compared to the R7 when it comes to the card slot and a headphone jack. This camera has a pop-up flash, which the R7 does not. Now the R10 uses the LPE17 battery. It's the same one found in the Rebel T8i. Now it's a great battery, giving us about 450 shots out of it, and you can charge it in camera through the USB-C with a power delivery unit. Now I really wish Canon would have squeezed in the LPE6 battery into this camera, made it a little more universal if you're upgrading or you're combining it with another camera in the lineup. Overall, I think Canon has done a fantastic job with the ergonomics of this camera, and I love the fact that they included 2 dials instead of just one like you find on the Rebel series cameras to input your shutter speed or aperture. It's a great feeling camera, it's very lightweight. I think it's going to be a content creator's sort of dream camera in the Canon lineup.
Whenever a new camera like this comes out and Canon says it's a new sensor or a newly implemented sensor, we want to test this, but because we got very early pre-production samples, we're not allowed to show you our images or video samples. But we do have some friends that were able to go on the launch trip with Canon USA, and they were able to talk about the image quality. And so I met up with our friend Chris Niccolls from DPReview TV, as well as Dan and Sally Watson from Dan Watson's channel. All right, so we're here at Chris Niccolls' house, who, if you don't know, he's from DPReview TV and formerly from this channel as well. Yeah. But we're at his house to talk about the Canon EOS R7 and the R10. And so you had the opportunity for the launch to go to Florida and try both these cameras out, get lots of photos and some video. Now, of course, the key thing that I wanted to talk to you about was, what did you think of the cameras in terms of image quality? Let's start with the R7 because it's the higher resolution one. What were you seeing in the files that you're able to look at?
So, you know, I would say honestly, both cameras really exhibited very similar characteristics that we've seen before from other Canon products. So, of course, we weren't really able to play with the RAWs, but the JPEGs, classic noise reduction, you know, that kind of really clean, but maybe a little smoothed out kind of look. Certainly, though, the R7 has the megapixel advantage. And so overall, I feel like that maybe produced better files.
Okay, now with that in mind, I mean, what do you think this means for the Canon EOS R lineup? Do you think this is the right direction for Canon to go in? Do you think there was a need for this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I couldn't help but thinking, again, I have no idea what Canon's planning to do, but I couldn't help but thinking, you know, they very much insisted, M series is sticking around. You know, the mirrorless APS-C line that we've already developed is doing well. We're happy with it. I can't help but feel like they're wanting to transition people out of the traditional SLR more so, right?
Yeah, finally. It took them a while, really, to be able to kind of make that leap and let go.
Yeah,
and they were kind of holding back some features, but now we're seeing they're really not doing that.
I mean, I joked that the R10, for example, with their entry-level kind of camera, they should have called it the Rebel 10, because it really did feel like a mirrorless Rebel, not just in the shape and size and weight, but also the market that they're aiming it at. So I think it's an interesting move, absolutely, and certainly, yeah, get people into one lens mount. You know, you have the option then of using lots of excellent RF lenses. I hope that we'll see more APS-C lenses coming out in that mount. In my head, very ignorantly, when they were saying, okay, we've got these 2 new APS-C cameras and the rumors are bounding, I was like, oh, why would anybody be interested in that? But they were actually pretty interesting products, and yeah, I think it was an interesting move.
Okay, so Dan and Sally, thanks so much for joining us. You guys had the chance to test out the R7. Now, in your guys' review, you talked a lot about how it kind of compared to the Canon EOS 90D. What are some of the things that you found that were big improvements over the 90D?
So I think probably the thing for me was that they allowed electronic shutter to really go all out. So that's where the 30 frames per second, if you're using electronic shutter, was a cool option from that. Really taking advantage of the live view autofocus that kind of lacked a little bit more with the 90D. That was more of a DSLR, so more of the viewfinder focus, and now you have the full AF capability of
Yeah.
like an R3. So you have eye tracking, you have body tracking, eye tracking for animals. I mean, it was a really powerful AF system. So I think that was where a lot of the improvements were.
That was really good. And the dust and moisture resistance too came from the 90D, which was good because again, we're in Florida and we were in the humidity, so we kind of got to test that out. I thought that was really good.
How do you think it's going to compare in the real world to the R3 technology? We heard a lot about the same algorithms are put into the camera, but of course we don't have a stacked sensor, we don't have the same processing power. So how did you find that it would compare? And I mean, given the price point.
Honestly, the autofocus to me was spot on. I think that technology in of itself in a lower end camera is incredible because you can get the same technology as something that's, you know, quite high end. I mean, I love shooting with the R3 as well. And it's smaller body, which I love too. Carrying two cameras around, I'd rather have a lighter weight camera on me, you know, for my second body.
Yeah, for sure. Now, in your review, you also talked about one of your favorite features on this camera, which is great for shooting wedding portraits, especially when you have a group of people. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, so shooting wedding portraits, you have, you know, oh my gosh, you have so much. And autofocus is extremely important for that because I keep my subjects moving constantly. And Canon putting in the R3 system with that was incredible. Honestly, watching the models move back and forth, I had them do everything. I had the model walk across the frame. I had the model, you know, doing whatever she could. You know, we had the sunglasses thing in our video that you guys can go watch. And it just worked really well. And I think this is such an incredible model. I know you can speak to that too.
Yeah, so $1,000 cheaper than the R6, and you still get dual card slots. So that was like one of the things that they didn't have in the 90D, and they brought out for this one, which can make this a really good camera for events and weddings and things like that.
Now, it being an APS-C sensor and having a fairly high resolution, what did you guys find was the dynamic range when you're shooting in low light? Did you have any issues with that, or how was it?
Yeah, I did some tests, and in low light, it seems to do really well up at about 3200 to 6400 ISO, which would put it, I would say, as one of the better APS-C cameras, and maybe like a stop worse than something like an R6. Which is a lower resolution and full frame. Right. So very good for most things that you would need if you're shooting a little bit darker scenario. That's when something like a full frame R6 comes into a little bit of an advantage. But for the most part, it holds up with what most people would need.
Awesome. Now, of course, we love having the crop sensors for video. And so, Dan, I know you were pretty impressed with the video feature set with this camera. Can you talk about some of the boxes that it checked for you that you're hoping to see?
Yeah, so there were two big limitations with even the R6. One was that it was very limited to 30 minutes recording before it would start, and then you had to restart it again. If you're shooting things like weddings, that was horrible, but even for YouTube videos, it was very difficult to every 30 minutes having to stop and start it again. That's now gone. You can shoot unlimited. It's much better with overheating control than the other cameras, and it can shoot 4K 60, so you're still getting that really high frame rate option for slow motion. So it's anytime you have a smaller sensor, that's kind of an easier thing for the camera to process. However, it's nice to see Canon taking advantage of that because that's something that we don't always see. Sometimes they'll limit it because it's a lower price camera, even though it's easier for the camera itself. The manufacturer will limit it because they don't want it to compete with your higher end cameras. And this is not really limited compared to the R6. In fact, in some ways, it's actually better for video.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a nice trend to see that Canon isn't holding back on a lot of features. Of course, if anybody wants to see more of your thoughts, your reviews, and your photos, they can check out your channel, which is under Dan Watson. And where else can they find some of your work too?
Oh yeah, Instagram. I like Instagram. So they can find us, and I'm sure you can link it, but I'm Mrs. Sally Watson on Instagram, and he is?
Learning Cameras on Instagram.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Evelyn, we both spent some quality time with these cameras here today. Now, I was quite impressed with the specs I was seeing when the R7 came out, and I wasn't expecting to like the R10 as much as I am, but it's really a full-featured little camera.
Yeah, it's definitely a step up from what we've seen in DSLR cameras like the Rebels. And I think one of the things that we haven't really talked too much about is the speed of these cameras, both are quite impressive. I mean, I can shoot 15 frames per second mechanically, not worrying at all about any kind of effects that, you know, rolling shutter, things like that you get with the electronic. But if I want to go electronic, get that super speedy speed, I can go up to 30 frames per second and I can shoot silently.
Now, what's impressive about this camera, as an entry-level camera in the R lineup, it can shoot 15 frames per second in mechanical as well. Now, you can go into electronic and boost it up a little bit, but rolling shutter is going to be a bit more of an issue that way. So 15 frames a second, I mean, you go back, you know, 5-6 years, that was, you know, we never saw very many cameras that could even do that at all.
For these price points, I think it's phenomenal, and it's nice that you have that, you know, high frame rate in the mechanical, especially because the sensors on these cameras, they're not stacked sensors like we're seeing in some of the other higher end models, and so that's something that you would have to contend with.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to talk about is the autofocus. Usually the entry-level cameras, the autofocus doesn't have as many options, or it's not quite as fast, but I'm really impressed with what both these cameras are able to offer. It feels like you're running with like an R3 sometimes. The algorithms, everything that it uses, it tracks focus, the face and eye detection is fantastic. And there's really nothing to complain about with the autofocus, what I can tell here. The biggest difference for me between the R7 and the R10 is image stabilization is a huge factor, I'm finding.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Not only do you have a lot more resolution and you almost need that image stabilization for that, and it's nice to see that we have these APS-C censored cameras now in the EOS R lineup. Of course, we want to see more lenses, more dedicated cropped lenses, but I think that's going to come. I mean, I don't think Canon's going to let their users down over time.
Definitely.
But it's going to be interesting to see how the lineup kind of changes. I mean, we're seeing a big leap from people stepping away from DSLR cameras. What's going to happen with the M line? I mean, this does actually outperform it in terms of autofocus and some of the other video specs. And so I'm very curious to see, you know, are people from the M line going to transfer over? What's going to happen with both of these lineups?
I do like the direction Canon is going with the design of their cameras, with the implementation of the control dial up above the viewfinder,
Yeah, you
beside
like
the
it?
viewfinder. I'm finding I like it more and
it's been a bit
more.
of a contentious point. Not everybody loves it.
And the addition of the manual focus autofocus switch in the front, right around the depth of field preview button.
That is nice.
I think that's an
like
interesting choice, and I find myself using it more than I thought I would. We have excellent peaking and focus control in this camera, so I can easily switch one to the other, which is quite nice. And in the case of the R10, having dual controls, a little bit surprise for me. I thought they were going to go more like the Rebel series with a single input dial.
We want to know, what do you guys think? Which camera would you lean more towards? What do you think of the direction of Canon with these APS-C lineup? Let us know in the comments below.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram.
And if you're new to our channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so we can catch you again very soon.
And if you want more information, you can always check us out. www.
Come on, post, photography, post.
This is the most awkward portion of the day so far.
As you used to be. He doesn't know.
I don't know, he's like 12.
He's not though, he's not!
Mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost as sophisticated as our fashion sense. I mean, Dave and I today, we're very matchy-matchy, Canadian style. You know, we got the glasses.
We didn't talk to each other before, yeah.
Thanks so much for sticking around. If you want to check out more, you can see our most recent content by clicking up here. And if you're Canadian and you want to shop local, go to thecamerastore.com by clicking down here.